Welcome to Love Always Self, a podcast about connection to self, reflections of self, and how this impacts our reality.
We're all about trying to find balance, discovering tools for spiritual wellness, and creating a safe place to have loving conversations about a broad range of topics.
I'm Karista, an energy healer with a background in Reiki, nursing, health coaching, and personal training. I have a holistic mindset and believe that everyone and everything can work together in harmony so that we can create more balanced life experiences.
And I'm Shira, a spiritual intuitive and explorer of personal truth with a background in management and finance. I feel we are all connected and guided by our own spiritual team, whom I refer to as Mount Glass, and I want to help teach you how to connect with yours.
We believe we're all connected, and by learning to love self, we will elevate the collective consciousness and learn to create deeper connections with each other, self, and source. As we grow and learn through our own life adventures and self-discoveries, we hope you gain insights into your own truth.
Don't forget to subscribe to stay notified of new content, and we hope you enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shira.
And I am Carrie.
And today we are going to have some tough conversations. So what I'd like to do before we get started is draw in our own energy protections. I like to do this in a form of meditation that you don't have to necessarily even be in a meditative state to do. But that's just the way I like to do it. So I'm going to kind of help guide through that right quick. So what I'd like you to do is just kind of take a couple of deep breaths in. For myself, I don't normally hold my breath, but if that works better for you, please feel free to do that. So just take a nice deep breath, and the kind of deep breath that you feel all the way down into your stomach. And then exhale. Let's do that again. Another deep breath through your nose or your mouth, whichever you prefer. Filling up that belly, and then exhale. I always recommend no less than 3, so just do one more. And exhale. And then what I like you to do is just bring your awareness to your heart chakra or your heart center, whichever you like to call it. I do this by lightly stroking with my finger the sternum area. I just do a very light tap or a very light rub, and this helps me keep my energy or my thoughts focused in that area. And then what I like you to do is just close your eyes and just imagine this big, beautiful, transparent, white light bubble surrounding yourself. And this light just illuminates all around you. If you like to work with color, feel free to imagine that this light has color in it. For myself, I like to use gold. And sometimes I'll even imagine that this beautiful gold light, it's almost like a liquid light, just streams all the way down from the heavens over my bubble and encases it. And then it merges with the white light. You can expand this to protect not only yourself, but you can expand this to protect your home. And you just imagine this bubble expanding and expanding and expanding and expanding. And nothing can penetrate this bubble of energy. You are 100% protected in this field. Anyone that looks upon this bubble only sees themselves, almost like a two-way mirror. Okay. You can do this anytime during listening to our podcast or anyone's podcast. You can do this bubble anytime you feel you need it. I do this multiple times a day just to bring my awareness back to this energy protective field, and just setting that intention and that awareness around it is extremely helpful for your own energy protection. I like to do this when I know I'm going to have a tough conversation, or even if I'm in the middle of having a tough conversation, I'll start to imagine this. This helps me protect my own energy. I know for a lot of empaths, whenever you're having a tough conversation, you tend to, or you're listening to something, you tend to draw that energy into yourself, and you start to feel that intensely on your own, even if it doesn't impact you in your reality. So we want to make sure that you are protecting yourself. All right.
Thank you for that, Shira. Thank you for walking us through that.
Yeah, you bet.
So, our tough topic today, stems around health and, acknowledging that, in this life experience, while we try to focus on being positive and creating positive experiences in our life through this podcast, we're not always meant to just have positive experiences, and that this life is also meant for us to experience the less desirable emotional states and pain and hurt. And so we want to take this opportunity to acknowledge that and let you know that it's okay if you are struggling with a situation or an event that is painful, that is scary, and that you are never alone. You are always connected, even through that pain. So, my dad is experiencing a health concern right now, and he's been in the hospital. And I've been dealing with a lot of emotions, rightfully so, around being in pain because I can't do more, afraid because I can't control the situation. I'm doing my best to acknowledge what I do have control over. And one of those things I've not been doing well at, and that's self-care. But another aspect of that is we do have the ability to send healing energy, love, and light to anybody that's hurting, anybody that's in pain, anybody that's suffering health issues. And so I just really wanted to take this opportunity to be raw and real about the fact that we can't always be in this positive, bubbly state, and that's okay. We don't have to be. Sometimes life requires us to experience these painful things. And it's so important for us, for our own healing of those traumatic events, to give ourselves the space to feel as deep as we need to feel. And if you need a person to feel safe with, that is okay. Find that person. But I do want to acknowledge that sometimes that can be scary, to be vulnerable in those states and to ask for that support. Being vulnerable, it takes a lot of strength and it takes a lot of courage. But the love and support that we receive in being vulnerable with our loved ones It's incredible. And it just helps that love to expand. So, some of the things that, I've been doing, I've been trying to reassure myself. In the past, I've shared my beliefs with different people that have gone through tough situations. My belief that we are always connected, that even with the passing of our mortal bodies, our physical expression of self, even though we cannot see, touch, be around the physical expression all the time, that those connections, those remain through our spirit. Now I've been trying to tell myself these things and provide myself some sort of reassurance. But it's okay that we still need to go through grieving. It's okay that we are fearful. It's the process of feeling those emotions that allows us to release them. One of the greatest ways to move energy, these emotional ties, is to cry and allow those tears to flow. Those awkward noises that you make, that is moving energy. The breaths that you take is moving that energy. Allow that energy to move freely through you and from you. And know that that love is always expanding around you. Another thing that I've been practicing is visualizing. Visualizing my love, my focus of healing on my father's body. Visualizing him receiving that energy and his body taking it for the highest and greatest good. And whatever that highest and greatest good, it may not be what my desire is. And I may not understand it now or even in the near or distant future. But I know that someday, after my passing as well, I will understand the full extent of every emotion that I've felt, that I've had to feel through, and that I've had to release.
Thank you so much for being vulnerable, Carrie, and sharing that. I mean, I know it's been really, really tough. And frankly, you've gone through a lot, right? In a very short period of time. And feeling sad or nervous or scared for a loved one on top of all of the day-to-day things that have gone on, right? I mean, it is an added layer in our human experience that, especially when it comes unexpectedly or it's a long-term, situation. I think about what my mom went through when she was taking care of my grandmother, trying to uphold a job, and then on top of that, maintain a home, on top of that, maintain a relationship, or marriage, and on top of that, being fearful of a loss, and taking care of somebody, and there's these added layers of responsibility that you feel that you have when doing this. And there's a much bigger risk of forgetting or not feeling like you have enough time to pay attention to yourself, to letting your cup become empty, you know, if we want to use that analogy, but, and not giving yourself enough space to fill your own cup up so you can be more present for others. Instead, we have been taught just by whatever scenario you've been taught with, but it's a pretty standard practice for us to be in a position to just immediately go and we're going to be there for this person. We're going to take care of this person, because we have this love, and that's the base of it, right? There's this greater love and connection to the ones that we care about, and we want to be there for them, and we want to take care of them. And we do tend to lose sight on our own selves when doing that.
Absolutely.
And there is this, and I love what you said about, remembering that when we're no longer in this physical form, this human physical form, that, you feel, that you believe, and I'm aligned with you on that. I believe the same thing, that I'm going to have this much grander picture of how it was all connected, right? How when you just visualize something, or you just put a thought into motion and you add that intensity of emotion to it, those things do have an impact. And when you're not in this physical form, and these are just recalls that I personally have, or things that I've spoken with my guides, and what they've shown me, you have this huge, elaborate connection to it all, right? To every single thing. And it is important to have that memory. It helps, I believe. It helps with your own personal healing while going through what you're going through. And I'm glad that that's part of your aspect of it.
Yeah, I definitely, these past couple of days, spending time with my dad in the hospital, it's been, I've definitely experienced a huge amount of gratitude for every moment that I've been able to spend with him, even though this has been such a tough event that's ongoing. And I think that that's, for me, important to recognize the opportunity that I do have in this moment to spend, because I don't know what will come of it. I don't know what the outcome will be. I can pray, and I can meditate, and I can visualize, and I've asked many people for healing energy, thoughts, prayers, love as well. But it really just brings, I think, focus to how precious the present moment really is. This moment, right here, right now, this is so precious. And I appreciate, even though, again, it's a tough environment to be in, being there with my dad and knowing that he feels my love, and he knows that, I am there with him, even if I'm not physically with him in the hospital. We've had these conversations. That makes me feel better too. And I just cannot express how much I am in gratitude for our entire relationship. There's been ups and downs We didn't talk for many years, and we created the relationship that we have now out of pure desire to have a relationship with each other, which I think is a really beautiful thing to have created. And I think it's important to acknowledge that. And I was talking with my friend Tara last night, who was in a previous episode when we were talking about fertility. And, she was explaining to me how when we pass on from these physical bodies, into our spiritual selves, that at that time, you know, if I am still physically present, I am connecting to and creating, I am forging a new relationship with the spiritual aspect. And I know because my dad and I have created our relationship that we have now out of desire, I know that we will continue to forge our deeper connection as time goes on, no matter what form we hold. And I find some reassurance and peace in knowing that.
That's beautiful. Super excited to hear that Tara is exploring these truths, right? As well. That's amazing. And sharing that type of insight with you, especially in a time of need. I think that's absolutely incredible. And you and I talked about this earlier this week. I believe, and I was shown this incredible zoomed out view for you of something greater at play, far more than even what we can perceive. And this agreement to have this traveling as one unit, one family unit, and this separation and these experiences during that separation, and then that coming back together, and the need to feel or to have an experience of forgiveness and trust and rebuilding a relationship, right? And how strong that makes the individuals in that experience, and how brave it is to do that as well. But it was almost like this grander plan of, in this lifetime, what is it that we want to experience or co-create? What is it that we want to learn about ourselves and how we can perform in these acts? Is there a target to have a very specific type of experience in the greater scheme of learning how to love, and be more united in that front with our Creator, right? So I mean, it's just such a much bigger thing than even what we can sometimes perceive. And it's that zooming out that we talk about sometimes, right? Where we say when you want to look at something in a different perspective, that you bring it all the way out, you zoom it all the way out, like you would a camera lens, or like in a movie when they like use a drone from the face of the person and they zoom all the way out into the sky, right? And now you see the whole city and all these other things at play that might have taken place to get you to that one moment, that one experience. And yeah, some of these experiences do not feel good. Some of these experiences make us extremely sad, extremely angry. They feel like they're just the worst, right? And the part of that experience, the part of the needing to feel it, there's always been, and I know that this is a taught thing to do, but to suppress those emotions because we feel that it's not a strength to show it. And so that suppression of those emotions actually cause damage, not only to your mental self, your spiritual self, but your physical self especially. And I think, that I'm a front standing witness to that, right? That, I got to be tough, I got to show that I'm tough to a lot of people. I don't want them to see me feel sad. I don't want them, that caring of what everyone else is thinking and putting those people's thoughts and emotions first prior to yourself. And by doing so, you actually do damage to yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not, there's a word for this. I can't think of it, but there's not it's not permanent. It doesn't have to be permanent. Even if that's the way you've been for a long time, you can change that habit. I know that it's important to us as humans to find a safe space to feel comfortable and feel safe in being vulnerable or in expressing those emotions. And that's okay. Don't beat yourself up for that, for wanting that.
Absolutely.
So understanding the bigger picture, understanding the situation at hand, understanding that it sucks really freaking bad, that sometimes we have these situations. We feel like we don't have a control on it. We feel that sometimes it's happening to us. There's that thought process as well. And we don't see the bigger picture. And it's harder for us because we don't see the bigger picture, because it's an experience that we need to have.
Yeah.
And having the awareness towards that is helpful. It doesn't mean it replaces or invalidates the emotions that you're feeling.
Or makes it any easier.
Right. So I want to just say that I thank you so much for wanting to talk about this today, because it's really needed, especially in a lot of the times that we're going through right now. And I know that you need this as well. This is not unfamiliar territory for myself either. So I feel you,
Yeah.
So
I would like to, share that any moment that you have, doesn't matter how long it is, how brief it is, if you feel called, if it comes to your attention, your thoughts of needing to send love to a family member, to yourself for your aching heart, to anybody that is hurting in the world. You don't have to know them. I strongly encourage you to take that moment and to send out those thoughts. They are filled with vibration, they are filled with energy, and we may not be able to see it, perceive it, but it is there and it is happening all around us. So any moments that you have to send love out into the world, to anybody that's hurting, to anybody that's sad, to anybody that's scared, I encourage you to do so, because you are more powerful than you are even aware. And thank you for anybody that is doing so already, to love those that are hurting and scared. Thank you for loving us.
absolutely. Thank you so, so much, Carrie. Honestly, You have the biggest heart. You really do. And it's a blessing to share this with you.
Thank you, Shira. Thank you for all that you do for me, too.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to pull my shit together for just a second. See, this is vulnerability, people.
We wanted this to be raw.
We did. Yeah.
It's a real thing, and you're not alone in your pain. You're not alone in your fear. I want to share really quick before we end the episode just a small message that I received from my Mount class last night. I am with you always. Never are we apart. Together forever is our nature. Truest form, behold, is source.
That's amazing. I love that so much. What did you, so this is something I have to make sure that we explain this because it's so important. And it was something that, my team was very adamant about, is sharing how to do this, right? How to tap in whenever you feel like it, how to receive messages however you feel like it, right? And I just want to be very, very, very clear. I am not a believer in there's a very specific way to do any of this, right? These are just some of the ways that I've practiced, some of the ways that I want to share. And like what Carrie just did and what she just read, it makes my heart just warm and fuzzy, and you feel it when you read those words. But one of the things that we talked about is the practice of receiving messages and how that can look, right? For me, sometimes I'll have this thought that just pops in and says, grab a pen and paper, right? I'm like, all right, grabbing a pen and paper. This is me trusting, right? Grab a pen and paper, and first word that comes to my head, write it down. Next word that comes to my head, write it down. I'm not trying to predict what the sentence is going to be. I'm not trying to focus on the full aspect of what's being said. I'm only hearing and writing down, hearing in my head, right? I'm only hearing and writing down the words as they come. Sometimes it'll come in the form of a few words at a time. Sometimes it'll just be one single word, and it's written down. So every message, which you guys will be able to see a full, you can see all of them that we've shared so far on our Podbean and future on our upcoming website. Yay, that's coming soon.
Highlight, we're getting a website built.
Right? But literally, this is exactly how all of these messages go. And then I go back and I reread it. And lo and behold, it's a full-on message, right? It's a full-on sentence that actually makes sense. And it surprises me every single time. But you can just feel the wiseness of it. And you can feel the guidance of that. And even though your sentence is not extremely long, it doesn't have to be a paragraph. It could just be something you really needed to know. It could just be a very impactful few words like you just shared. So occasionally when I do this, I also get these random images in my head, right? It feels like a memory, like when you see when you remember, hey, I have a picture of this event that I went to, and it's me and a couple of friends. And I remember that I was wearing like a red shirt in that. I'm using red because you're wearing red. And, and you have this very strong memory of exactly that image. It's a thought process kind of like that. That's how it feels, right? So I'm curious, Carrie, when you wrote that, do you have any recollection of any memories that popped in your head or any images that might have popped into your head when you were writing that down?
No, not off the top of my head for that moment. I was in the middle of writing or journaling about everything that was going on with my dad in detail. And, after several bullet points, I just skipped a couple lines and started writing that, exactly like you said, just one word at a time, not trying to see how the words work together. And then I just skipped a couple more lines and kept writing about my dad and what was going on.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Do you mind reading it again?
absolutely. I am with you always. Never are we apart. Together forever is our nature. Truest form, behold, is source.
It's very wise.
And with that, listeners, we thank you for being a part of this. If you have any prayer requests, any needs for healing, loving energy being sent to you, to any loved ones, please let us know. You can reach out on Facebook. You can send us a message on Instagram. You can email us at contact@lovealwaysself.com. And we will add your needs to our own expression of love out into the world. And with that, you guys, I hope you all have a wonderful day. I hope that you connect with all the love that is around you. And remember to love first, love last, and love
And
always.
love always. Bye, everybody.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shira.
And until next time, remember to love first,
Love last,
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you take upon the information on this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from information discussed in this podcast.